question. Of course, when we're talking about the quality of education, and these are our honorable teachers, and that is our point of focus tonight. How can we ensure that they are fully involved in the question of seeking a proper and high quality education? That is our point of focus, and we are live. If you're far away from your television set, remember you can actually let everybody know that we are live on our YouTube channel. It's actually right there for you, and of course all you need to do to be interactive in this particular conversation is add the hashtag InFocusRW. We've had some conversations already taking place even before the program started, and one of them, let's just quickly throw our eyes onto this one right here from Louisa, who says that I was lucky to meet in general very woke, creative and critical children who, however, once in the classroom or in a creative writing exam, still repeated word by word what they were told by the teacher or in books instead of critically engaging with the content. Of course, this brings to light the mode of teaching that we have, and of course what role the teachers can play to ensure that our children are critically thinking and not just cramming whatever they are being taught. Louisa comes again and says that lack of own language skills and tools after the change of instruction language, lack of material and funds for more creative and conventional teaching methods, disproportionate own living conditions. These are some of the thoughts that she feels are pulling back the efforts made by teachers or teachers as far as their role is concerned in this. Jean-Baptiste Quizera says that being an educator is not a profession, it's a calling. If a person just wants a profession, they should never be an educator. This is what he says. That is the challenge. When there will be true educators, true education will happen by any means necessary. So the question is when and for how long are we going to wait? And for those who say that we cannot eat the calling, we need the money on the table, we'll be able to talk about that on the program for a while. Sylvian Sanga says an important topic with less attention. Thanks, Eugene. Quality education seems to be a hard question to solve, but how can we all contribute toward improving teachers' living conditions? No quality education with no teacher decent living. Very, very important right there. And last but not least, from Ryan Yewell says, and if I may be allowed to be bold to say, a teacher that is afraid of making mistakes, that is afraid to show she or he doesn't know everything, and is afraid to the unknown, will not encourage a generation of innovative, intelligent, courageous and effective leaders. We have a teacher on the panel. He will be sharing with us whether he is one of those people that you're talking about. One last one here from Barnett says, key to reinvigorating our economy is providing quality education and training. Quality education needs to focus on recruiting, training and supporting teachers. We'll definitely be able to look at that as far as the issue of recruitment is concerned. And finally, a very interesting tweet came through in the course of the week. It was this one right here. Singapore removes school exams for students. In addition, class marks will no longer be on report. Government says it is preparing children for jobs of the future. Is this something we can replicate? Of course, we'll talk about that. I'm sure those who are watching us and they have seen this, they're like, oh my, we want those exams to go away. Let me just introduce our panelists right here on the program. Emil Mukiza, a director in the Curriculum Teaching and Learning Resources Department at the Rwanda Education Board. Thank you so much, Emil, for joining us in the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Also with us is none other than Herin Otieno Menya, Director, AIMS Teacher Training Program here in Rwanda. Thank you so much for joining us, Herin.
Thank you.
Also with us is none other than Daniel Nizere, chemistry teacher for O-level and A-level at Rutobwe Secondary School in Kamonyi District. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Let's kickstart this conversation with this particular issue that I just opened up the conversation with, teachers and high-quality education. Most of the time when this conversation is taking place, the teachers are often left out of the question. I want to start with you, Emil Mukiza. Why do you think this is usually the case? Why don't we always involve teachers when we're talking about high-quality education? It's mostly the policy. We want the minister there on that panel. But few people will say that, but where are the teachers? What are the issues concerning the teachers? Why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anangwe. The issue of teachers and the way the society is looking at them now is really very crucial. As we can say, the quality of education, we're putting into the game quality teachers. The quality of education is there to help the country citizen
Yeah.
to be on board, to be able to perform what what the country needs for them. Then to have that in place, there is an enabling action of teachers. That's why I really, in the view that teachers should be respected, should be more valued, that profession of teaching should be really a very competitive one in the country, in the whole country. And I think the government, the community, or the supporting bodies, they are on that. Yeah.
They're on that.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you to interrogate some of the points that you've just mentioned, but let me just go to Herin here. Same question. Why is it that teachers, who are very, very important, we seem to have accepted that they are really key in actually solving this puzzle of high quality education, but often left out of the major conversation when it comes to this particular discussion? Why?
Well, Eugene, thank you very much. I think we must say, at least today, the teachers are here.
Yeah.
So we are breaking that habit of leaving the teachers out, and you're right that the teachers are right in the midst of implementing education,
Yeah.
our quality teaching, and as we always say, it's the wearer of the shoe that knows where it pinches most.
Yes, yes.
So yes, I think what we need to reiterate that going forward, our conversations, our activities around seeking to make teaching better must involve teachers. And
it
for
should
us,
actually start with the teachers.
yes, it should start with the teachers. And for us as AIMS, African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, that's a key thing. In fact, I want to say hi to all my teachers in AIMS TTP because I know they are watching.
Yeah.
They're part of this conversation.
Yeah.
So yes, they must be involved, and they should be involved because they actually are right on the ground. They will tell us what's happening, what's not happening. But we also need, and I believe we'll be doing that in this program,
Yeah.
to unpack what teaching means or what a teacher is, because I believe every teacher is an embodiment of so many other layers of experiences that we need to put our fingers on to be able to do something about quality teaching and learning.
And I think that is our cue to actually get from Daniel, who's actually a teacher himself. What do you think teaching really means? And why do you feel that most of the time you've always been left out of these major conversations when it comes to quality education? Daniel.
Thank you very much, Eugene. To me, I think that teaching means helping student, creating something new or good to the country. You know, the economy of the country is based on the employees, the stakeholders. All of those institutions, we need the quality of employees.
Yeah.
And all those employees are coming from the school.
Yeah.
They're all coming from the teacher. So teaching means making or putting more contribution to the development of the country. Thank
The
you.
development of the country through creating or channeling good people who can actually be able to fit into the society.
Yes.
Talk to me about your biggest headache as a teacher today. What is that biggest headache? For students that you teach, they'll tell you your biggest headache is your exams that you said. For you, what is your biggest headache as a
Great.
teacher?
As a teacher, the headache are so many. We're having many headaches. You know, by now, the most issue that I face when I'm teaching is that I have to meet the need of every student. You know, every student, we're having a big class with many students, and as teacher, you need to know what each of the student is needing.
Roughly how many are you talking of?
Oh,
for your
right. Like there are some big classes like 50 students. There are other small classes like 30 students. So we're having a mixture of classes. So in all of that, in that case, as teacher, you need to know what really is my student needing. So you have to figure out everything like that. So it's a headache somehow.
It's a headache somehow. I mean, he says that should qualify to be actually a migraine. As an educationist yourself, how can teachers teaching this huge number of classes, I mean the classes with huge number of students or pupils, and they need to actually ensure that each and every of those students is catered for. What sort of things do you think they should be looking at as far as tips are concerned to ensure that they deliver on that? Or are we being too unfair to them when we want these results from them, yet they have these things that they're going through?
Well, I think the answer is a yes and no. To a certain extent, we could say we're being unfair to them for wanting results. But on the other side, as educationists, we have to always, when you're thinking about interventions, we have to think of our context. The truth is, in an African context, we will always have large classrooms for a number of reasons. And so as we try to push to try and see how we can reduce those number of classrooms, as an educationist, I believe the challenge is to ask ourselves, how can we make the best out of the situation? And that's where the training of the teachers, both pre-service and in-service, have to really be contextually grounded to look at what are the key challenges, because the teaching challenges in different countries will vary. But in Africa, one common phenomenon is the issue of, for example, big classes, scarce resources, and the teacher has to function within that. So I would say that it's a tough deal, but we have to deal with it. And when we talk about innovative pedagogical practices, those innovative pedagogical practices have to be alive. And so for us as AIMS TTP, where we do training largely for maths and science, and we focus on maths and science teachers, and there's a reason for that, not just because African Institute of Mathematical Sciences is about sciences, but I believe when we start looking at the challenges that are faced by teachers, they are very unique challenges faced by different disciplines. But just to give a solution, for example, one of the things I'll tell you from an experience, I'm just coming from finishing my PhD research, and I was faced with a situation where I had to do an intervention in a class of 50, and I almost ran out of it. But later, I had to think of a solution. One of the things I did, for example, was to arrange my students in groups. And when you do that, there's a psychological kind of sense that you've reduced the numbers. And so as I walked around the groups, I could be able to pay attention to a group of students at a go. And of course, there are also other benefits that come with putting them in groups, so long as you can manage the class when you put them in groups. So that's just one example for one of the things we need to look at. The challenge, though, is, are we training our teachers in that during their pre-service training or during their in-service training? And for us as AIMS, those are some of the things we're working together with the other stakeholders to try and ensure the teachers are equipped with skills that can be practically implemented, even as we challenge the government to look for other solutions of trying to reduce the classes if possible, and ensure there are resources that can support the teachers in what they're doing.
Right, and of course it's very important getting that from Irene herself, and Emil, I want to hear from you as a government. You know, much as we're pushing the teachers and saying that we need them to perform, we need them to give results, but look at that particular challenge of large classrooms. We cannot tell parents not to bring their children to the class because we need everyone to actually get this education. And that sings to the tune of the skill development for these teachers, as Irene says. How is that being done from a government's perspective as far as training, retraining, re-educating, and educating so that you freshen them again with new skills of dealing with these challenges that they face today?
Yeah, thank you very much. The new competence-based curriculum now being in place is there to support the teachers to be facilitated to teach. And one of the challenges that the teachers now have is those big classes with big number of students, and we are asking them to conduct the learner-centered approach.
What is the learner-centered approach?
The learner-centered approach is like the teaching should be focused on learners' ability, learners' background, and learners themselves. They are the ones to construct the knowledge, the learning.
So, sorry to cut you short. So, if my child has the ability to actually do mathematics, then they should be taught differently on how they're teaching the other one who has no that ability. Is this what learnability means?
May I correct you on that? I think as educationists, you're very shy of using the word ability.
Yes.
Because it connotates an intelligence belief that talks about, like innate, like you're born with an ability. But I guess what
others are not.
And the others are not. So I guess what you're saying is that perhaps the attainment level or their learning levels are different. And I guess just to add to what he's saying, I don't think he's talking about separating them, but being able to leverage on their strengths. And it's not just, looking at the students not as blank slates. They come with skills, they come with attitudes, they come with prior knowledge. How do we tap into that and facilitate a learning environment that can actually bring the students on board to be party to the construction of the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what the government is trying to implement through the competency-based curriculum.
Yeah.
And I believe there's quite a bit of training and
that
needs to be done. But one thing I know, because we work very closely with REB, is that they're committed to that. And I know the other development partners are also committed to that. But it's one of the things that we need to get our teachers to learn. And I know the challenge that will come with that is that, again, we must be clear that there's enough evidence also from research from across the world that just using learner-centered teaching may not necessarily result into results. In fact, there are those who have said it is not culturally relevant to us, because these are students who are coming from perhaps a very hierarchical kind of environment where they're used to the elder always telling them what to do. So part of the training will be to try and know how do you break some of those resistances, because the cultural context of Africa is totally different perhaps from where the origin of learner-centered. But having said that, we are a community. We have a kind of sense of community, and we need to start asking ourselves, what are the strengths we have in our cultural nuances or cultural attributes that we can tap into to push forward the learner-centered approach, but also to make sure learning is meaningful for our students.
Right. But of course, Emil, because what we're looking at is the results. How is this actually bearing results? How is this actually working? How is it actually, delivering what we want as far as, the training is concerned? Because we cannot have a teacher teaching for the last 5 years and they continue to just teach without having to go through extra training on how to adapt to the new changes that are actually happening in the education sector.
Yeah, of course, there is a number of trainings happening now. We are having a in-service training being conducted in schools at national level, district level, maybe at school level. We have what you can call the continuous professional development program. It has some of the components like SBI, school-based in-service training. Yeah. We are teachers of different subjects. They are together, they discuss the way of teaching, and some of those challenges are being discussed in those forums. Yeah. Like one of the purpose behind that, we are trying to make the learning fun. So if you're having for student or 50, they are following you. They are in the mood of learning. That's the purpose now. And as we have said, of course, some infrastructures, as like rooms, like other features, are also required, and the government is providing them as good as it can.
As much as they can. I want to go back again to Daniel, because actually you are the teacher mostly here as far as someone who's practicing teaching is concerned. I want to come back to you, and I want to talk to you about what most people have actually mentioned in the tweets that we've talked about. Most of them have been talking about the quality of life of the teachers, the welfare of the teachers. It's been mentioned as one of the impediments that teachers are not well paid, they are disrespected. I want you not to be diplomatic, and without actually going deep into being personal, I want to hear from you. How difficult is this for you as far as you're concerned, the welfare of teachers?
Okay, I can say that the welfare of teachers, it is not bad, but also not good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is somehow moderate. But when I come back on what a teacher needed to perform the work, to deliver what he needs to deliver, or the quality of education that he needs to give. Look, he need that the head without energy can't work, right? Yeah. So you need some energy to carry out what you are doing. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that for the the wages or salary of the teacher and how the teacher is now living, somehow it is not enough to help him work or do his job.
Right. Try to paint for us a picture of a day in the life of that kind of a teacher that you're talking about.
Oh, great. For example, if I take an example of a teacher in a primary school, seriously speaking, the wage that they're getting is, for me, when I look at it, it is very, very, it's like $50 a month, like $50 a month. If you substitute that $50 a month to be per day, to be like $1, like something like it. So how do you think that a teacher is going to be working? They are starting school like at 7 a.m. and they're finishing school at 4 p.m. Or 4:30, and they're having like a 30-minute of, or like 1 hour of break at noon, and the teacher is having the whole 5 days a week working. He's not going to have any more time to do something else that can help him improve his life.
Extra, yeah.
So in that case, how do you think the teacher is going to be motivated to work on his best to provide all the education I need? So I don't think it is possible. So what I'm thinking is the teacher is the key to the quality education that we're talking about. But also the teacher need the facilitation, the motivation. When talking about like in the society, in recent time, the teacher was someone who was highly ranked in the society where everyone respecting him. But today it is not the case, you know. It is not the case. Yeah. But today, even for the teacher themselves, the self-esteem is somehow low, you know, because I am having a bachelor degree in physics. I'm teaching physics, and there is someone at the other side also having the same bachelor degree, but doing in the other government institution or private institution. We're having the same degree, but like his salary is the double of mine. Yeah. Look, how am I going to behave in the society? Well, together in the society, look, the older people, when they are trying to compare themselves, they say, look, I'm a cultivator, or just a simple seller. Yeah. I can pay the salary for some 3 teachers, things like that. You see that now, all the the expectation of the teacher in the society has now reduced, because the people just they know, they think that the teacher is someone who's going to teach their children just that. But how they see the teacher in the society, it is somehow neglecting.
It is neglecting, and it's a very painful story that you share right there. And Herine, I want to hear from you, because despite the fact that we seem to have actually recognized that the teachers are key in our society, these are the teachers, or these are the people who have actually trained our presidents, our prime ministers, our top-notch doctors. But what is going on? Why? We shouldn't even be talking about this issue of the wage being $50 a month.
Yeah, Eugene, they've trained us.
Yes, yes.
And yes, I think that's a real pertinent issue, and that's why for us, when we say teacher training program, it's very important to know that one of our pillars is what is based on policy dialogue, because we know, as I said right from the word go, what you see the teacher doing in class is as a result of a number of factors. In fact, if I can enumerate what research says, there are 4 main factors: the environment within which they are teaching, and that of course will connect to issues like their payment, the policies that are there, the immediate environment, so that was the digital environment, the immediate environment in terms of their schools. Yeah. But then there's also then the outcomes of the students and the values and the attitudes. So going back to that, I think the government of Rwanda has to be challenged. I know there's always, it's not unique to Rwanda. It's something that is common across many countries, but most of the countries that we want to emulate and we keep referring to in most of our education policies or new goals, the likes of Finland, they actually pay their teachers very well. And we need to ask ourselves very tough questions. I know, for example, that the government of Rwanda talks about Vision 2020, and it outlines one of its pillars to be human resource development for the knowledge economy. For example, in this case, talks about science and technology being core. But the question is, are we walking the talk? Because when I look at the instrument, the National Strategy for Transformation, which they say is the instrument for implementing the Vision 2020 and the other related visions, including the SDGs, now you look at that and you look at how the budgeting has been done or the resources have been done, and you'll find that education is put under the social transformation, and under social transformation that only gets 27%, the economic transformation gets more, and then under social transformation 40% is given to education. If you calculate that, you'll find it's almost just 10%. And the worst thing is that this is a reduction. Looking at some of the data, if they can be relied on, it actually shows me that in around 2006, the budgetary allocation was around 22%. Now, instead of going up, we're going down, when actually the demands, the lifestyle in the community. I grew up, my mother is a teacher, I grew up as a daughter of a teacher, and they were most respected people. They're the people who perhaps only had iron roofs in the community. And so there was a sense of motivation. Things have changed. It's now a very fast living world, very competitive, schools where our children have to go. So I think we need to ask our government, it's not just the governments, even us, how do we improve the welfare of the teachers, even as we support them do what they love most? Because when you talk to the teachers, just the other day we were celebrating the International Teachers' Day. It was amazing to look at when they were saying, I mean, we had this social media discussion, why do I teach? It was amazing that most of them talked about the greatest inspiration they have is seeing the students that they teach become people.
Right.
So they really carry ourselves, our children in their hearts. We need to do something.
We need to do something. Emil, you're here from government. You will take the heat on that one, since no one else is here from government on this. We are expecting too much from our teachers. We're talking of a knowledge-based economy. And the knowledge givers are here saying that they are not able to actually perform, or they're performing under really tough conditions as far as their wages are concerned. For 11 years, you've actually been in this position you're in. When you meet with your peers, what do you tell them about this? And what do they tell you is actually going to be done to change this narrative of the wages being low for the teachers, the motivation not being there? What is happening in this end?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank teachers. They are not really being influenced with the condition they are in. But what I want also to add now, this issue of teacher welfare is like a current issue which is being discussed. There is a current status law specific for teachers, which is giving out the way of improving their quality, and there is a number of things that the government had put in place, like the facility of access to finance. Mwalimu Sacco now is doing well, and we are having a lot of stories of teachers who managed to shift from the bad situation to the good ones. And the good thing that is most teachers now are approaching it, and it is really doing well. And in that law, there's a number of things, a number of initiatives which are in place now. And it is a discussion which is ongoing. We are discussing with the other development partners to see how we can improve this. But there's also a call to community now. Those teachers, they are with our kids from morning to evening. Then again, they perform their duties anytime, anywhere, from classroom to schools to wider community. They have to serve as the models of the society. The core is now the community to be aware of that, of the role of the teacher for the future of their kids.
So they can respect them.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. I want to come back to you again.
Yes.
Daniel, look, UNICEF is saying that a staggering 617 million children and adolescents, which is actually nearly 60% globally, have not mastered basic literacy or numeracy skills. And this is actually something that is pointing back to the quality of education.
Yes.
What you're teaching these people in class. We've had some of them talking about how they meet people or students or pupils who are really smart. But when they go to answer the exams or what is set in the exams, it's mostly what they have got from the notes. And it's not the competency-based kind of skills that they're getting out of them. How can you defend your fellow teachers when it comes to this?
Thank you very much. What I can say on that, first of all, we are still having the problem with the student that they are still having that kind of thinking that they used to have before. They have not yet shifted from the old one to the new one.
But how do they shift? Because they always say, teacher do, or I mean, teachers say, teacher do. I mean, I don't want to say monkey see, monkey do. Like what you tell them is what they will do.
Yes. Yeah. By now, we are having the main problem with the language. the language of instruction that we're using in teaching.
Yeah.
Like that, we're having many students that can't express themselves.
In English?
Like, yes, in English. If you give them a question, like, or if you ask them to answer to something, they can't formulate a text by themselves. So from this one, I think it is one of the reasons that they are copying what they have in the note, because they can't formulate a sentence by themselves. You know, look, it is a big challenge to us, because now the policies that we teach in English, we use English everywhere we are, because it is the one that also the student will use in answering to the national exam, to the exam that we are giving them, the quizzes, things like that. But that issue of the student that don't know how to make or to use it, to speak it, okay, it is being a big...
It becomes a challenge.
Yes.
This is why they're actually doing that. Erin, I mean, how do they deal with this? Because we've said, I mean, should we then just do away with the exams then? Like Singapore says, they have actually done away with exams.
Well, for sure, we need to rethink our examination processes. Normally, when we talk about teaching or learning, we tend to forget about assessment. And we tend to forget the connection between the assessment, teaching, and learning.
Yeah.
And we tend to not interrogate how we assess our students. But having said that, I think when you said that statement, there was a concern about literacy and numeracy. And his response bring out pertinent issues. Some of them very deep. Because again, as a continent, we are caught up in a situation where we want to teach our children in a language that is not their language. And without, consciously or subconsciously, we then find ourselves equating intelligence to language.
So if you don't know English, then you're not intelligent.
If you don't know English, you're not intelligent, which is not right. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we had a maths clinic for Kayumbu sector. And it involved all the first public secondary schools in Kayumbu sector. And I would say, for us, we had a one-on-one experience, because we actually went in with a group of teachers, and we wanted to engage with the students on specific topics that we had actually identified. And truth be told, it was a harrowing experience, because you could see the students are capable, they can learn, but the problem is the language. Now, we need to ask ourselves very tough questions. If our students still are struggling in speaking English, because this is like the third language. And we need to be honest also. Even our teachers are still working at building their English proficiency. So we need to ask ourselves, I mean, we normally say that a teacher should be allowed to code switch. They should be allowed to talk in English and talk in Kinyarwanda, because learning that will inform innovation should be learning that is very close to the learner's experience, daily experience, so that it's culturally sensitive. They can look at it and make meaning of what's happening around them. Now, we must be clear that for Rwanda, English currently is a barrier. And we need to ask ourselves what that means and what we need to do. Should we continue saying that if a child cannot speak English, they're foolish? Because right now, for example, as an institution, I would say we are concerned about sciences. I know there are students who perhaps are mathematicians, but we're flushing them out because they could not read the mathematics question. Now, what can we do? Because sometimes it feels like there's nothing we can do. I always tell people this example. There are specific things we can do, even in terms of the way we set our exams, in terms of the way we present our exams. I tell people, if you look at UK, which is the mother of English, and you pick their GCSE examination, and you look at their word questions, you'll find that their word questions are short sentences, and there's no one sentence joined to the other. It's one sentence, the next sentence, the next sentence. And why is that the case? Because they understand the connection between language and cognition. In the same UK, if you happen to be a foreigner and you can't speak English very well, and you happen to reach examination stage, they have provisions. You can be given more time to do your exams. There's even provision that you can be allowed to bring somebody to read the exam for you.
And translate for you.
And help you understand what that is. Now, those are the owners of English. But here we are as Africa, clutching so hard at English and trying to make our students think, if you don't know English, you're not intelligent.
Right. Emil, do you think as Rwanda Education Board, you can allow a student who he's an exam room and the question is in English, and then they end up responding the question, but very well, but in Kinyarwanda, would this person be given the marks they deserve? Because they responded in a language that they understand.
I think because we are also teaching English, and a teacher of math is also a teacher of English.
But she says English is our barrier. It's a challenge.
Yes, it is our barrier, but we are improving. Education has steps. Okay, it is from one step to another step. There is no shortcut. Okay, therefore, taking into consideration the Rwanda situation background, we have to accept to undergo that situation.
But how many students are we flashing out in the process? How many students? I mean, look at it. You will go to an international university right now. You could be from China. I had students who are from China, they were in UK, and they're not very good at English. Right now, you can put your English text and put your China text and keep reading.
But he says we can still learn the hard way.
What we are saying is learning the hard way, but how many people are we sacrificing? And I'm not saying we stop using English. I'm saying we need to ask ourselves as a government, what mechanisms have we put in place to reduce the impact of the English proficiencies? For example, what I said.
I think it's there.
Are our sentences too short and all that?
Let's hear
I think that you have to follow the way our evaluation system works there with the national exam. The national exam is there for, it's not there for, it's there for orientation. But the way they mark, it is that grading of system of grades. It is trying to reduce those challenges. The language, the different background, different
does
teachers.
it reduce as I go to the
let
screen?
me just say something.
Yes.
We need to ask ourselves, for example, and this is now a social justice angle. We need to ask ourselves why, for example, we have more students in urban areas, for example, registered, or more schools that, for example, can offer the full sciences, more in the urban areas and the rural areas. And the reason why we have to talk about these things, and we're not saying something has not been done, because by the time you're marking, this child has already responded. And what I'm saying is research shows that when you have interruption in your reading because of your understanding of the language, your cognition process is disturbed because of the dissonance. So there's higher likelihood of you misinterpreting the question and you presenting it differently. So what we are saying here is that we need to think of what can we do to reduce this impact, because if we are not doing so, we are also allowing for social inequality to increase. So I guess there's room for us to do more.
There's room for us to do more. Daniel, what sort of solutions would you be suggesting? Because you are the one who raised that as a problem for teachers. English is a problem. What sort of solutions would you be suggesting to be done in this end?
Very difficult question to me. But I think what I'm thinking to the solution to that question, I think they should allow the teachers to mix languages to help the student understand. For example, if the teacher is explaining, helping the student in English, and find that the student that he is dealing with is not catching up.
What about during exam time, where your teacher is not there to explain in Kinyarwanda? What should happen? Because Herin says that it is actually becoming an obstacle for people who understand, but in their mother tongue are not in that particular language, if they were given a chance. So what should be done there?
I think this question should be answered by Lab.
There is this concern. You see, those kids have been learning in English, taking notes in English, using the textbook right in English. The exam has to be in English. And the one who set exams should be aware of those conditions.
Of course, assuming they're learning because the results are showing they're not learning. We are assuming they're learning in English, because when we went to class this Saturday and we were trying to teach them
that was one, and you had it like in 1 minute. You can't have it as a...
Let's be factual. I mean, all of us are trooping to China, for example, as a country, and we know China has developed. The truth is, China, part of the strength of their education system is they are taking cognizance of being sensitive to their language. And what we are saying is this. What we are saying is not that we should stop teaching our children in English, but we need to do more. There's what Reb has done, but what we are saying is there's evidence, and I believe we'll be working together to challenge ourselves to do more about reducing the impediment, because those are actually post-colonial baggages that you're carrying with ourselves as a continent, and it's not just a Rwandan problem.
It's not a Rwandan problem. Let's just quickly read through what we're already seeing here coming through from our Twitter. Of course, we have Carrera, who's actually saying that I completely agree, teaching should be a calling. It includes a parent aspect too. Compensation is key, but let's look at at government programs like Umwalimu Sacco and others, all these policies show that the government is doing something to improve the livelihoods of teachers. Daniel, talk to me a bit about when you hear people telling you this, that this should be a calling. Go ahead and just do it as a calling. What does this make you feel, especially when you're having difficulties getting that money in your pocket?
Yes, I agree with those saying that teaching is a calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with them. Because you can be having more, can be a graduate, you can be master's holder, PhD holder,
yeah.
But when they put in front of students and ask you to tell them something, or explain to them something, me something to say.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. Teaching is a calling because it's something that comes from the heart of someone. So, but also a teacher need a help, need a motivation. A teacher needed to make a research, he need to prepare. He's having a family, he's having friends.
He needs to survive.
Yeah, he
will
needs to
not
survive.
eat the calling.
Yes.
Okay.
The calling. You
Let's
can't
take a
eat
look
the
at Richard,
calling.
who says here, my question is for Ms. Menya. How do you deal with the issue of language competency amongst our Rwandan teachers? It's not been an easy ride for them since the transition to English as the main language medium of instruction. How do you motivate them? Let's talk of motivation, just real quick, Menya.
Well, I think as Daniel has said, one of the advantages we have with most teachers is that most of them are very strong intrinsic motivation. But I guess creating enabling environments, identifying the challenges that they're going through,
yeah.
and creating and involving them in coming up with the solutions, I think is part of the ways we can actually motivate them, making them have a voice
yeah.
in the solution, so that we don't have top-down kind of approaches. We go bottom-up, and they are party. There's a deliberation, they're party to that. I'm saying that because right now I have a force of teachers around me under AIMS TTP, and they're very involved. They're doing things in their schools. Some of them travel sometimes overnight to come for our trainings because there's a sense of connection with what we are doing. So, and part of it is because the way we're doing the things, we are involving them.
Yeah.
They're part of the
conversation. So it has to be,
yes.
They have to be part of the solution. Let's look at this one. Christoph says, lack of efficient motivation for teachers, welfare decreases their hope for best future and discourages some of them in their work. I think we've touched a bit on that. Shortage of teaching materials is a challenge to the successful implementation of the recently introduced competency-based curriculum. You want to speak to this, Emil? Just real quick.
Yeah, thank you very much. This issue of lacking the teaching and learning materials, it is the bad thing to implementation of curriculum, competency-based curriculum. But again, we are getting solution to it, and now we are using teachers to develop our own material, to use their expertise to develop our textbook. And still, again, it is a challenge that we are facing, and we are really on it.
You're really on it. Let's take a look at another one from Cliff here. Cliff says that, how are teachers leveraging the power of technology to boost children's ability to read and write, especially looking at the sad statistic of 21% of grade 3 students can't read a single correct word in a minute. Let's take some time and talk about this. And of course, Herin, I want to hear your thoughts on this issue of artificial intelligence, because people are saying that it is going to change the way of teaching in the near future. Let's talk a bit about this particular tweet right here. It's a very concerning.
So yeah, the tweet talks about ICT, and yes, ICT is one of the tools that you can leverage on to improve teaching and learning. But again, we have to be clear. There's enough evidence that shows, again from other parts of the world, that bringing ICT in class, that does not necessarily mean it's translating into successful learning. So one of the things we are working towards, because that's also one of the pillars that you're paying attention to, one of the things we're working towards is helping our teachers understand, and working together with REB and other partners, to see that it's not just about bringing the computer to class or the phone to class. It's about helping the teachers to understand how they can tap into ICT to improve learning. And it comes with its own challenges. They have to ask themselves, for example, bringing ICT, for example, what impact does it have on gender? Is it possible that the male child might actually want to grab the ICT more than the girl child? And what skills, therefore, do I need to have as a teacher? What about classroom management? So yes, there is opportunity in ICT, but we also have to be very cautious, because we've seen governments that have run very quickly to invest in ICT or to consider ICT sometimes We have good marketers from wherever they are.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're very clear about as AIMS is that before we actually promote any ICT gadget, we want very clear evidence that actually that gadget has, there's evidence that it can improve. Because sometimes it's not the ICT, it's not the gadget, it's the principle behind it.
Yeah.
So if there's a tool that can help with formative assessment, for example, if I know that the government cannot afford to buy every school that particular gadget, I think it's really unfair for the government to use taxpayers' money to buy a few. The question will be, if it's formative assessment, what can we use?
Yeah.
And I always tell people, ICT has two parts,
Yeah.
information, communication, and technology.
Right.
We tend to think about technology only.
Only.
Yes.
All right. At school, as a teacher, let's talk a bit about this part of what are sort of the challenges, the gaps and opportunities in use of ICT in your class in Kamonyi.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all start by talking about the importance or what I benefit from using the ICT in my class. We are having the shortage of resources. Like by now, the resource of the books, having a shortage in the books, things like that. But with ICT, we are very lucky at our school because there is that 4G that they gave us. I thank them very much because they did it for us.
Yeah.
What's
What's the biggest challenge? Apart from the resources, now let's talk of the principle behind it. When using it, gauging whether it is actually working, delivering to what you really want as a teacher. What are the biggest challenges?
Oh, great. It is having one challenge is that it is not easy to monitor all students in front of ICT. Because when you put them on internet, they have that tendency of deviating from what you are studying. Like if you are dealing with physics, dealing with motion, for example, you ask them to put in research on the kinematic or the dynamic, okay? And some students, instead of dealing with what you ask them to do, they start Googling to Facebook, YouTube, things like that.
Yeah.
So somehow it is a hinder to their development.
Right.
Because at one side, ICT is good, it is important, but also if
Not well controlled, it can be
I
bad.
think just to add on that, the other thing that we have to look at is the issue of the knowledge and beliefs of the teachers themselves.
Yeah.
Because I've had a teacher say something like, well, ICT is good for the bright children. For the not very bright children, you need blackboard and chalk. So that takes you back to the knowledge and the belief system of the teacher in terms of how does learning take place. So, and that puts a challenge on us, the trainers and the government, to know, and what he's saying, to know that apart from just giving this person a computer and perhaps training them on computing, there are a number of other things we need to actually also deal with so that that ICT can be used effectively for all children.
Right. Emil,
Yeah.
you want to jump in very quickly, just real quick?
Yes, the use of ICT in teaching is a skill that teachers have to acquire when they have the device, when they have the digital content, when they have the learners. It is a process again. And
There
we
have been
can't,
reports that actually most teachers were not even well versed with some of these ICT tools. What sort of plans does REB have or has done to actually deal with
this is the 21st century. We are providing the computers. We are now, there's a plan of giving 400 per year to teachers, and again training on how to use them, how to use digital content, to deliver content, and those are for the proper running of runners.
Right.
Yeah, it is a process. It is undergoing.
Keyword there, it's
Yes.
a process.
Yes.
All right, let's quickly read this one from Gustavo. It says, it's not easy to win this quality education battle while most of the teachers are not passionate about it. Some are teaching because of having limited choices and options. Speak for your colleagues. Is it true that some are just there because nakuni, like they don't just have another choice?
Yeah, some are there like that because they miss the somewhere else to go.
Yeah,
I can say
yeah,
so.
yeah.
But for me, because teaching should be coming from the heart. Because if a teacher doesn't do his job very well, he might destroy the country, even the whole world. Everyone who is working, everyone here, even you, Eugene, the person in front of the teacher, is the teacher who created you. is the one who made you who you are. So if the teacher had not that ability, that passion of doing it, he should have could be someone who is learning on the street, robbing people, stealing from them. Yes.
But we need to ask ourselves what contribution we have made as a society in terms of perhaps bringing down the sense of passion that teachers might have. Do we look down upon them? Would we tell our children to grow up and dream of being teachers? Because those are some of the things that actually dampen the sense of passion or the sense of identity for most of the teachers. And I think instead of actually focusing on the few, because every profession has a few bad fruits, I think we need to celebrate the many who are actually hanging in there, even though the welfare is not really good, even though things don't really look nice, but they're there every day. So I think as a society, we need to celebrate them more, and perhaps we would enthuse these others to be better.
Right. Emil, how do we celebrate teachers? How do you do it at Rwanda Education Board? How are you celebrating the teachers so that we can motivate those young ones to say that I want to become a teacher?
Yeah, thank you very much. There's a number of initiatives to support teachers, to celebrate their profession and to encourage them. Like the recent Teachers' Day, we had a number of motivators that have been given, and it is also coming, and that status now being implemented. It is really supportive. I think with the time now, it will be nice.
It will be nice. I want to take the last round of questions because we also don't have much time left. As a teacher, Daniel, when you just look at the audience watching us tonight, what sort of message would you be telling them, and the government or any other stakeholder as far as teachers' concerns are concerned? What would you be telling them tonight?
Thank you very much. To the audience, to everyone who's watching this emission, first of all, I want to thank him. Thank everyone who's watching to us. And I would like to ask them, or to remind them, that teacher is the key. He is at the base of the development of any country, even in the world.
Right.
So if the teacher is not taken care of,
there will be a problem.
There will be a very big problem.
Right. Erin, closing thoughts, and as you talk to us a bit about your training program, how can people plug into it? Just real quick.
Yes, so I think part of it is to say that the challenge is, and the responsibility is to us all, the government and the members of the public. So as AIMS TTP, which is a MasterCard funded program that we are implementing as AIMS, we believe that the public has to be part of this conversation. And obviously, we focus a lot on science, and there's a reason for that. I mean, the statistics are quite alarming that out of the 935,000 students that are registered in primary school, only around 75,000 end up taking sciences. And only 0.3% of the schools in this country can actually offer all the combinations. So I guess there are a number of layers of solutions that we need, but to the public, we have a role to play. We will be doing a lot of public engagement activities, and it starts home with how we treat the teachers that actually teach our children. But more so, when can we walk the talk? When there is a rallying call for us to be party to what's happening in school and what's happening with the teachers, let's come on board. So watch out for the next public engagement program that you're going to have across the country, whatever way it is. One of the things we'll be launching next year is a teacher awards for STEM teachers. And we want it to be something that the public contributes to. So I'm looking forward for more people coming on board.
Perfect. Emil, closing thoughts.
I want to encourage them, say thank you, and we do appreciate their work. And the saying that the future of this country is under their hands. So they should keep pushing. We do appreciate what they are doing.
Right. Thank you so much. Of course, the tweets are immense. Just go on Twitter, look for the hashtag InFocusRW, get interactive with all these amazing people on our social media platforms who've been really sending in their thoughts on this. Let's keep talking. It ends in these four walls, but of course the conversation continues on our social media platforms. Let's keep talking. How do we ensure that our teachers are at the forefront of this equation, or this particular thought of seeking high quality education? Let's keep talking about that. We'll see you again, same time, same place. As always, I'm Eugene Anangwe. Good night for now.
Welcome to The Square, a show that brings you the very best in debate and conversations on